Video is going to be a little different. You won't see my face, but it's just easier this way for today. So I do want to talk about topic and scope, and this is important as you move from a stage of pre-writing, data gathering, or reporting and analysis into claim making, thesis building, and evaluative statements, where you are beginning to shift from just raw data or trying to understand to try and advocate for some sort of solution or make some sort of claim. So topic and scope is a component of the rhetorical aspect of writing. So it's a component of the rhetorical aspect of writing. Felt like I needed to repeat that. Scope. So topic and scope. First, the topic is just the meat of a text. It's content. It is the content that the writer is writing about. It's what is this thing? And I'm going to compare it to a couple other things that show up when we write. But a writer has to make intentional decisions at some point about what level of content is appropriate based on other rhetorical components of the writing. What is part of the rhetorical context? And so as we talk about scope, so I'll talk about scope here in a minute, but let's just compare topic, and then we'll see how it relates to other things. So my students get this handout or comparison chart that helps us understand how topic compares to 4 other important considerations as writers. Topic versus text versus style versus genre versus writing culture. And so we'll zoom in a little more. Now, so as we talk about a topic, it's not specific enough to determine the number of authors or number of texts someone is studying. It is often a broad subject or category, like nursing or immigration or video games or fast food or veganism or religion or rhetoric or writing. Big, broad topic. And so when you are dealing with a big, broad topic, you need to make sure and zoom in to something that's going to make that topic meaningful. And so I've discussed this, I think, in other places with the analytical aspect of writing, the importance of scope from an analytical lens, the importance of scope for when it comes to considering your audience and how to make adjustments. So be aware of that. You can check out some of those other videos. But a topic is often compared to a text. If I'm analyzing a topic, it's this generic thing, and I have to figure out what I care about within that big, massive topic. When I'm dealing with a text, it's a little more specific. I can zoom in on a single text because there's a specific author, a specific thing that they've written or created, and so it's a text is a single piece of communication. It's not just your SMS text. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's any piece of communication created, any single piece of created work with the intention to communicate. So a movie could be a single movie could be a specific text, a specific patient's medical chart, a specific tweet about the wall by Donald Trump, a specific video game like Super Mario Kart, or a single novel like The Philosopher's Stone or The Sorcerer's Stone or To Kill a Mockingbird. So a text is a single piece of communication, often written by a single author. There's sometimes people will multi-author things, but that's less common unless you are in an academic environment where there are a whole bunch of scientists working on a single project. Now, so a topic is very general. A text is more specific because now we have a specific author we can look at, a specific text we can look at. Then there is a style, which is a specific single creator or writer's way of communicating, usually across multiple texts. So Stephen King may use similar style across multiple books. Lindsey Sterling has similar sound across multiple songs. The same nurse may use her own special abbreviations to record multiple patient chart information on their charts. So that's a style where one author or one creator creates multiple texts, and so you are looking at that unique author's style across those multiple texts. Then we've got genre, which is where we have a genre we've talked about before as any type or form of communication with sociocultural conventions or norms. Now, a genre is multiple texts written by multiple authors, but that have similar structures or styles or social norms audience expectations connected to that type of text. And so the genre of a medical record or patient chart includes multiple patient records with different nurses writing on them, but that all have a similar structure, or the nurses use the same coding system. There are expectations on what should show up in that document for it to be considered part of that genre. The genre of first-person shooter video games may include different games, but have a lot of similar features. And so experts on those things would be able to compare and contrast within that genre. Call of Duty, Black Ops, Doom 2, Half-Life, Halo 4 or 5, or whatever we're at now. But that they are all created by different companies, different game designers, but they have a similar structure or certain audience expectations that make them fit into that category. And so we've got topic, very broad category; text, single piece of communication, single author most of the time; style, single author but multiple texts, and shared style across those texts; genre is multiple authors, multiple texts, but a common expectation of what should show up structure-wise or language-wise or any number of writing consideration when it comes to genre. Then a writing culture is all of those things interwoven into a network, an ecosystem, an ecology, or context. All of these types of writing are happening as all together. So we have unique author styles and genres and a bunch of texts, but undergirding all that, or underneath all of that, is this structure of culture. There are these beliefs and there are these social norms that infuse all that is happening. And so we might look at all of these different things when we're looking at writing culture. Beyond that, we might even look at specific technologies on how those things are communicated or produced. And that's not quite on this list. But we can look at how we would shift from general topic to making an actual argument about something by pushing more specific. And so I do have in my cheat sheet some examples here for the thesis statement, but let's just talk more specifically about what scope means, since we've got topic kind of down in comparison to other things. A topic isn't a text. A topic is very broad, so you have to zoom in. You may choose to zoom in on a topic by choosing a specific text, or choosing an author style, or choosing a specific genre, or choosing a writing culture. But even as you zoom in and kind of focus your topic a little more, you need to scope in more specifically. So let's talk about what that means to scope in. And so as we think about scope, it is zooming in multiple levels to really to say something important as we drill down. And so this is important. This is an analytical step, but it also helps us know at what level we want to make our claim. So when we discuss scope, we're talking about the depth of focus a writer chooses while accomplishing their purpose for a particular audience. And so a less specialized audience may need the writer to start at a more general level and gradually work to greater depth, whereas a more specialized audience may get bored when writers start too broadly, or if they don't go deep enough to add new knowledge or perspective to a topic. So this is an analytical step, but as we do it, as we try and make claims and shift into that evaluative state, or as we try and put together a thesis, we really have to have a purpose behind why we're going as deep as we are and why we're talking about these specific things. We probably aren't going to accomplish much if we generally talk about the earth to people. But if we want to talk about something happening on the earth, the whole planet, it may be helpful to zoom in on one instance of it happening in Africa, or in the United States, or in the North Pole. If we're zooming in on the United States, it may actually be even more helpful to talk about how that thing is happening in Arizona. And if we're going to talk about how it's happening in Arizona, it may be even more helpful to zoom in on a very specific occurrence that happened in Maricopa County, or Phoenix, or one particular district in Phoenix, or a single case of this thing happening with a single person in this area. So that's how scope works, is we want to zoom in so that we get specific enough to actually say something meaningful. There's a danger where with first year writers where sometimes we want to spend our time so broad so that we have enough to talk about, but not actually say anything meaningful because we didn't have the depth we needed. But when we're going to make that shift, we have to think about this idea of what is topic, how do we zoom in to something meaningful and not generic, and how do we consider the scope at which we're attacking this problem. So a lot of times when people are struggling with writing culture and that sort of thing in the project that my students are currently working on, they will try to take the thing on at this huge level and they can't figure out what to do with it. And so we want to try and zoom in and say something meaningful about the small pieces and then put those meaningful things together to say something about the larger whole of what we're discussing. And so zooming in to say something meaningful at a very fine-tuned level will allow us to make a broader claim as we look for patterns across the little things. So instead of talking generically about writing culture, we may look at one specific practice. We may look at one specific writing system. We may look at one specific genre that shows up in that writing culture. We may look at one specific belief, and then we'll pull that all together to say, in this writing culture, this thing happens in this way for this reason, and that's a good thing, or that's a bad thing, or that's a meaningful thing. Because ... and that's what our essay lays out. So this was meant to be a quicker video about topic and scope and how to shift from data to claims. Hopefully it helps with that. If not, I'm sorry. But have a good day and enjoy your writing.